I transmigrated into the body that holds my heart, part 6. Dearest, this is the 20th dress you've tried on. If you can't make up your mind now, we will be late. My mom nagged, arms crossed, voice bordering on royal impatience. I stared at the full-length mirror in front of me, frowning. My reflection looked good, no, perfect but not right. We were inside my wardrobe room, or more accurately, the personal boutique showroom of a spoiled billionaire's only daughter, the kind you only see on reality shows or rich girl Instagram reels. The walls were lined with 7-tiered custom cabinetry shoes, arranged by shade and height, bags grouped by brand, occasion, and mood. There were shelves stacked with untouched luxury items, still tagged, still pristine. Gucci, Dior, YSL, Bottega, some still in their boxes, wrapped like gifts I never bothered to open. And then the jewelry. Rows upon rows, glimmering in soft, golden light chokers. Pearls, fine diamond drop earrings, brooches that could blind a bitter ex. But none of them screamed me tonight. Not this version of me, anyway. I twirled half-hearted. The dress I had on was ... lovely. Soft blush pink, delicately embroidered with tiny white florals on sheer silk, high neckline, cap sleeves, and a skirt that fell just below the knees in gentle waves. If innocence had a closet, this was her prom gown. So darling, if you don't want to be late to your meeting with Tristan, better choose this one. You look stunning in any dress you pick, Mom said, stepping closer to gently touch the fabric over my waist. Her voice softened, coaxing now. I bit my lower lip. She's right. But also, $. This dress was beautiful. For a debutante, for a Disney princess, for a 17-year-old virgin, being courted at a spring ball. But my 25-year-old self was internally kicking the closet doors open. She wanted something bolder, sexier, something that didn't say, please like me, but instead, you'd be lucky if I looked at you twice. I wanted to be a little more daring, I murmured. But the dress I had in mind didn't exist in this room. Not yet. And Tristan Zane was not the kind of man you wanted to face, dressed like a daydream from a storybook. Here was reality. Raw, powerful, unforgiving reality. And I needed a dress that said I was ready to meet it head-on. I ran as fast as I could the moment our car halted in front of the restaurant. My heels clicked frantically against the marble floors as I bolted through the grand entrance. My heart pounding not from exhaustion, but something worse. Anticipation. We were late, stuck in traffic that refused to move, trapped in a car, with my mom's endless fretting, and my own bouncing thoughts. Luckily, Dad and Hansel had arrived a few minutes earlier to entertain Tristan and keep the formality of the arrangement intact. I reached the door to the private function room my father had reserved for this meeting. The official dinner where both families would formally discuss the engagement. Without waiting for anyone, I flung the door open with breathless apology ready to spill. I'm so sorry we're late. Traffic was jammed, I began in a rush, but the words faltered and died in my throat. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Dad sat at the head of the table, looking at me with barely concealed disappointment. His fingers were steepled together in front of him, a half-drained glass of scotch at his side. His eyes were sharp and unreadable. Dad sat at the head of the table, looking at me with barely concealed disappointment. His fingers were steepled together in front of him, a half-drained glass of scotch at his side. His eyes sharp and unreadable. Behind me, Mom nearly crashed into my back, panting and red-faced. Crecia, you're not supposed to run like that. It's bad for your heart. I didn't answer. My eyes had already moved to the empty chair across from Dad, slightly pushed back. A wine glass, halfway drunk, sat untouched now. He was here. He had been here. And he had left. My stomach dropped. He didn't leave because I was late, right? Or did he? Dad cleared his throat, his voice even but weighty. He left just a few minutes ago. Said he didn't have much time to spare. A pause. Long enough to sting. Hansel scoffed, not bothering to mask the disdain in his voice. Imbecile, he muttered, before casually motioning to the waiter to refill his glass. He took a sip, then glanced at me with narrowed eyes. Honestly, sis, he's the most arrogant man I've ever met. What did you even see in him? It was the first time I'd seen Hansel genuinely angry. Not annoyed, not and I had no answer. Not one that made sense out loud. Not when the seat was still warm from where Tristan had been, and my chest suddenly ached, not from running, but from something I can't explain. I felt my eyes water, the tears blurring the already too bright chandelier lights above me. My breaths came shallow and sharp, as though the air itself refused to settle in my chest. I turned to look at Mom. Her expression was soft, pleading, trying her best to hold it together for me. She lifted her arms, about to wrap me in a hug. But I stepped back before she could reach me. I couldn't. Then, I ran. "Chrissy," she called, chasing after me with worry strung tightly in her voice. Let her dad's voice echoed behind me, stern, unshakable. It stopped Mom cold. Let her process how absurd this whole arrangement is. Absurd, ... Yes. He was right. What was I even thinking? What kind of fantasy had I built in my head? That he'd fall in love with me on sight. That fate would be that generous. I already had everything: life, family, luxury, a second chance. Why am I so greedy? Why did I want more? Why did I want him? But then, his face came to mind. Tristan. That desperate look in his eyes, the first time I saw him, haunted, hollow, like a man begging the universe not to take what little he had left. Damn it, I still want that. Not him, not just him, but that kind of gravity. That pull, that need. I want to be someone's don't go. Someone's stay, please. I want to be the person he looks at, like the world would collapse without me. It's not about his face, or his reputation, or even the absurd idea of fate. It's worse. It's something darker. I'm not obsessed with him because of who he is, but because of who I was when I first saw him. A soul. Drifting. Desperate. Forgotten. And when I saw him desperate too, I wanted him to need me the way I needed anyone back then. It's not love. It's a toxic imprint. A craving carved into my bones, when I was nothing but a floating memory, begging to live again. Even now, standing in the ruins of my fantasy, I can't stop wanting to be that someone. Even if I have to become a storm to earn it. His jaw tightened, but I didn't stop. I just want you to know. I appreciate it, more than you probably realize. Chrissy, I stopped cold. That voice, I knew it, even before I turned around. Jared. He stormed toward me, his features twisted with rage. His appearance had worsened since the last time we crossed paths. Messy hair, eyes ringed with exhaustion. Was the company in B City not doing well? Or was it something else eating him alive? I stopped and crossed my arms and gave him a puzzled look. The luxury tuxedo he wore hung on him like a costume ill-fitting, out of place on someone who looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. If I didn't know him, hadn't lived with him once, seen him in his prime every single day, I'd have thought this gaunt version of him was his normal state. But this was not the Jared I used to know. Something in him looked lost. Not just tired, but broken. Aimless. You single quotes, read ... Jacob. Oh, Jared. I said with faux surprise, tilting my head like I had to search for his name in the fog of my memory. That was my plan, after all, to erase them from my new life. Them, meaning everyone from Martha's past. I was Crecia now. Crecia May Zane. And they were ghosts. His expression darkened, visibly. He stepped closer, too close. My breath caught in my throat. Your amnesia is really something, he muttered, his tone laced with bitterness. Before I could step back, he grabbed my arm. What the I jerked slightly, startled. Let go of me. He didn't hurt me, not physically, but the grip was firm, possessive, almost. I heard you have a business arrangement with Tristan Xavier, he said through clenched teeth. So, let me remind you, since you apparently forgot again. My cousin died giving her heart to you. Don't you think the least you could do is Marion Evans instead? Repay her with your life. I blinked, stunned. Are you insane? I blurted out, my voice sharp with disbelief. I may be Crecia now, but hearing Jared say those words, that logic made my skin crawl. Who does he think he is, dictating who I should marry? As if love, or guilt, or grief, is a currency to be traded. I stared at him, heart thudding in my ears. For a split second, it wasn't just his words that shook me, but the shadow of who we used to be. And how far gone it all was now. Mr. Evans. The voice was smooth, sharp as glass. Jared and I both turned our heads. It was Tristan. He walked toward us, composed and precise, dressed like the cover of a business magazine. Without hesitation, he reached out, pried Jared's hand off me, and pulled me gently yet possessively into his side. I don't think it's appropriate, he said coolly, for a bachelor like you to be seen in public with my fiancé. His tone wasn't jealous. It was smug. Like he'd just laid claim to something valuable. As if having me was a trophy. And in many ways, I suppose I was. I watched Jared's expression darken from stormy to murderous. His jaw clenched, fists curling at his sides. He looked like he was about to snap. And Tristan, he was eating it up. He enjoyed it. There was satisfaction in his eyes, a cruel glint of triumph. Fiancé. Jared echoed, his voice sharp. That's funny. I don't recall seeing any public announcement. Oh, don't worry. Tristan replied with a smirk, glancing down at me. You'll hear about it soon enough. He was smiling, but it didn't touch his eyes. There was nothing warm in it. Only calculation. Let's go back to the room. Dear, he said in a sugar-coated tone, then turned to Jared with a sharp nod. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And just like that, we walked away, Jared, disappearing behind us, like a closed chapter. Once we reached the grand doors where my family waited inside, and Jared was safely out of sight, Tristan dropped his hand from my waist, like I burned him. He straightened his coat with a practiced tug, his face shifting into something cold, indifferent. Let's go in and get this arrangement over with, he said flatly. Then he pushed open the door without waiting for me. I stood frozen for a second, staring at his back, trying to process everything. I gulped. What did I just walk into?